Okay, well, let's get going anyway, and hopefully Stefano will join us shortly. Oh, he's there. He's there. Great, awesome. Well, yeah. Hello and welcome to this X Space. My name is Peter Marirosans. I am the CTO of Concordium. Today, we'll be talking about security in this agentic economy that we live in. I'll kind of set the scene and then introduce our guests on the show. So, I guess, look, you know, crypto has kind of long treated security as a secondary thing, especially when it's a bull market and speed is rewarded. All this kind of gets reduced down to a tick boxing exercise more than anything else. But that's changing. You got AI agents that are coming into play now. They're key economic players and actors. Institutions are kind of creating things more in digital assets. And there's a whole ecosystem that's growing and becoming more autonomous, right? And hence becoming more valuable. Now, security is shifting to kind of support this function as a core infrastructure thing more than anything else. And in this space, we'll kind of explore how AI is reshaping the threat that we have among us right now, and kind of why the old assumptions that we kind of had and we're comfortable with are kind of breaking down. And hence why it's becoming a bit of a situation that we need to deal with. So yeah, welcome. I'd like to kick things off I just want to kind of recap that we are also in this month celebrating Concordium's 5th mainnet anniversary. We launched it 5 years ago. With trust, identity, and everything that we had envisioned for the chain. And we're still continuing and we're still building and we're going toward that trust infrastructure, even more so now in the AI and agentic world that we live in. I'd like to kind of introduce our guests. They come from one of the most reputable security firms that there is out there in the Web3 world, CertiK. Luigi and Stefano, welcome. How you doing?
Hello, Peter. All good. How about you?
I'm always good. That's the problem, I guess. um, and yeah, look, I've had the pleasure of working with both these wonderful people in the last few months as we've been doing our own audits on Concordium, as you kind of know, it's just come out. If you haven't, go and take a look at it. But yeah, Luigi and Stefano, give us a little bit of an intro about yourselves, and kind of we'll get going after that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Peter. So, yeah, I'm Luigi Girletti. I'm a senior blockchain security engineer at CertiK. I've been here now for 4 years. Been working a little bit on everything, mostly starting from smart contract security, but now going down and focusing more on infrastructure and the blockchain itself. And I've been working on different kind of chains, including, let's say, custom chains, and as you know, Concordium as well. And previous to CertiK, I've been working on as a telecommunication engineer on 5G networks and distributed system, and this helped me, to let's say boost a little bit the security aspects of the infrastructure that's bringing this knowledge in CertiK. And yeah, that's more or less me. So,
Awesome.
Hi everyone, thanks for the invitation to this space. Hi Peter, hi Luigi.
Hi.
Yes, well, I'm Stefano, I'm a senior blockchain security engineer here at CertiK. Previously, I also worked as a protocol architect at the Chain Foundation, focusing on interoperability problems. And I also have a kind of like background in computer science and telematic engineering, where I hold actually a PhD that was focused on the application of the blockchain technology to the management of internet resources. Here at CertiK, I'm specializing in distributed system security, especially focusing on the infrastructure level. So yeah, here's a bit myself.
Excellent. Well, welcome aboard, guys, and it's great to have you here and have this conversation. I think it's a really important one. And most kind of AI talk is kind of what the agents can do, and kind of what the latest thing that's happened. And I think maybe the more potent question is, what happens when AI systems start interacting with financial infrastructures at scale, right? Now, at Consensus 2026, CertiK argued that AI makes crypto security more urgent, not less. I guess what changed in the last 12 to 18 months that made that kind of kind of made it impossible to ignore?
Yeah, thanks for the questions. I mean, that's kind of a twofold question. So first of all, what changes when the AI agents are interacting with financial systems? Now, this is both interesting and scary at the same time, because what we lose is we start losing the human judgment in this loop.
Yes.
So what is happening now? Agents are holding keys, are executing transactions, are basically moving funds directly, and this, if there is a flow in this system, the attacks can move at a machine speed. And the difference, for example, before we could have a human seeing an issue and saying, okay, this is wrong, let me check it, let me pause it for a moment. So now with agent doing it autonomously, this is kind of a problem.
I mean, to be honest, even the checks can be really fast if it's agentic. It doesn't really matter, does it? As a human, you kind of slow the whole process down. Whereas, just doing the check, even if you end up with a positive check, it's still, the slowing of the system. Whereas this doesn't happen right now.
That is true, and the problem though is that now a fault in these systems in general, if the checks are not proper, is just faster. Everything is moving way faster than before.
Yeah, and is it generally the speed? That's what you guys have picked up in the last 12 to 18 months. Is this phenomenal speed at which these decisions are made, and the fact that they're done in mass numbers in parallel almost.
Yeah, I mean, here I would also say that, for example, now we have seen an enormous shift in the way all the engineers are kind of like now operating using AI.
Yeah.
So now there are all these workflows in place that 18 months ago were not yet possible. Now we're speaking about loop engineering on how to make agents work by themselves. No, so that's kind of like a huge shift.
Yeah.
And it's an evident change that we are witnessing about the advancement of the AI models. And so that's kind of like what also brings us to this new autonomous agentic economy. And of course, it imposes a reflection on the security side, because the AI model evolution enables cheap, fast and efficient attacks. And also kind of like now we should try to put some guardrails for these agents.
Yeah.
So try to validate what they have intended, they want to do, all this kind of stuff. And probably this should also happen in the future, before we settle on the execution layer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I mean, to be honest, just on that note, I think what you're saying, the agents are almost interacting with other agents, trying to safeguard themselves. The agent is setting the guardrail itself. Sometimes, I mean, that's kind of where we're at, in the sense that if we're not careful, we almost let it do its own thing, and agents are advising agents on what to do, and that's not necessarily the right approach, because they're both wrong, right? And this is something that we don't necessarily appreciate at the moment.
That's exactly the problem that it's arising, because we need a way to try to validate that what is executed by the agent is exactly the intended behavior that the owner of the agent wanted. And that's something that it's very important right now, and companies doing their own thing. However, probably there is a need for a more let's say generic thing, in order that if an agent wants to be used on different ecosystems, that could be done without relying on different mechanisms for each system.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, this is the thing, right? So just kind of bearing in mind what these agents can do, and how they use. I mean, it can go in both directions. It can be used to build, but I guess they can also be used to kind of launch attacks, right? I mean, launching a sophisticated attack previously required quite a high level expertise, right? A real expertise in how things work. And I have a feeling AI is changing that really fast. You got phishing attacks, you got deep fakes, voice cloning, all these kind of things taking place at a phenomenal speed and capability, for that matter. So I guess the question there is has AI fundamentally changed the threat landscape, or is it simply just the fact that it can do it faster kind of accelerated the existing problem?
Well, I think that in general, AI has done both, in my opinion, because first of all, every kind of vulnerability discovery and exploitability is now done faster and in a more efficient way. And also, most of, as you most sophisticated attacks can be done in an easier way with AI. But they are also introducing new problems, like, for example, prompt injection. It's what we were saying before too. An agent could be, injected a prompt that it was not supposed to do, and if it's managing money, this could be a financial issue.
Yeah, Louis, just on kind of. I mean, I get it, and hopefully the listeners get it as well. But just in case, what is a prompt injection? Like, what's the principle behind it?
I mean, basically, the prompt injection is that it's using any source that is given to the agent itself to try and sneak in a prompt inside that changes what the agent is doing. It's basically like an extra prompt that you were not intended to do. Sometimes they do it in images, or sometimes I've seen that probably last month there was one case that an agent was tricked into sending money via a Twitter post, right, an X post,
Right.
and so
Wow.
that's the thing. So it's kind of scary because how do you protect from that? That's that's the thing. You need validation. You need validation after. Yeah. Please go on, Peter.
No, that's okay. Carry on.
No, yeah, I was saying you need validation after you do the prompt, and actually try to pre-execute the like make a way in order to pre-execute the transaction or the prompt, and ensure that the result is expected. However, this is kind of difficult, and systems are trying to do it. Like, for example, maybe I don't know exactly how Concordium is doing this, but
yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, right? So it's a whole new world, as they say, and with it comes new challenges that we need to kind of address and be aware of. So I guess oh, go on.
I want to add just one thing, that regarding this evolution of the AI, that they increase the problems and also change the threat landscape. We've seen that in one of our recent reports on the we do this hacked rep where we do the amount of money losses and the incidents in the web space. April alone was the highest month since 2022, and I attribute this to AI, in my opinion.
Yeah. I get it. I would agree. I would, it's fast.
I mean, just adding, for example, a thought on top of this. No, it's also what we are witnessing. It's also kind of like different targets because now hacks are not happening only on smart contracts, but for example, the GelpDAO hack, that stolen $290 million was basically targeting the infrastructure itself.
Yeah.
So it's also, AI is becoming also a threat in the supply chain, and so that you have to have clear and secure dependency map of what you are using, on how you are using, and also the operational landscapes. That's kind of like how do you use this dependency? Can I trust it? Can I trust this API that I'm using? Because when multiple agents start to interact, those things can be actually triggered. And that's kind of like a very big issue. And we are speaking only about, the system level things, because then there is always the human that in most cases is the most vulnerable part. As we are witnessing, all these phishing campaigns that are becoming super good, so that they can really get you into something that you don't want to do if you don't pay the right attention. All these deep fakes with voice and cloning that are going super fast. So it's kind of like they said, you need 3 seconds of time to then replicate a voice using AI.
Wow, that's quite fast.
That's quite fast, and
that's scary.
It's quite concerning.
Yeah, quite concerning. I mean, that's literally just saying, hello, how are you, and that's enough for you to catch my voice. And look, with
Exactly.
out of all of these things, out of all these different ones, which one kind of which AI powered attack concerns you guys the most today? What's the one that kind of keeps you
I
up
mean,
at night?
personally, to me, it's the AI to the social engineering. So all this deepfake phishing and voice cloning, because what it does is that there is no code you can secure yourself against this. Like it skips all the
Yes.
technical defenses that you can think of, and it attacks directly the human, which is currently the most vulnerable part.
Yeah. No, that's a scary thought. Absolutely. I'm actually talking to you guys. Are you talking to me? I don't know. I don't know how we get past that point.
Well,
And look, I guess if if we're gonna keep getting better tools to protect ourselves, and the guys get better tools to infiltrate and break or mimic or kind of put us in kind of a compromising situations, who benefits right now? What do you guys think? What do you guys see?
Well, I mean, in that sense, at the moment, we can say that more or less the situation it's equalized, I think, because as attacker gets better tools, we also on the defense side can build better security solution. And for example, in that sense, also the gray box approach is a very good approach that you took to secure the infrastructure. No, and this kind of like also it's possible thanks to the advancement that we had with AI help to build those things. And also there is the fact that the attacker has some more incentive if he can break into the system to use a lot of tokens, and so a lot of money to try to break a system. So while the defenders, there is always this point where the attackers needs a single weak point to enter to the system, while the defender needs to close all the doors.
Yeah.
And so
that's the thing, right? You got to close all doors and windows, and the attack only needs to find one little tiny kink, and that's all it takes.
Yeah. From the other side, it's also true, that most of the attacks that we are witnessing are coming from mostly standard security concern, a standard operational things, so such that crypto key compromising and stuff like that were present also before AI. And so in that sense, there is a strong need for the education in security and adopting the security as a standard procedure also in the development process.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, that takes us kind of nicely into the area that I wanted to go into, which was like, the biggest vulnerability in general, for a while now has always been that, that human behavior. At the end of the day, we are the weakest link to a certain extent to any system. And why is it that so many attacks are still, preventable mistakes, but it's still happening?
Yeah, I mean,
what are the most common mistakes teams make?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, I would say that the problem is the culture that we have in this industry, because we are the time speed to push to market as fast as possible, launch product, a set deadline even if there is issues, and this is something that creates this kind of squeeze in time that developers need to not care about a warning and then rush into launch project. Or for example, they don't separate enough the keys of the operational keys from the treasury keys, for example, and in this way there is no separation, and if there is one lost, then you lose both the money and also the control of the project.
And isn't that kind of what the saying is, you kind of shoot yourself in the foot. Generally the kind of one of the vulnerabilities that we have, which when you look at security issues, is like create that sense of urgency. When you get that email that says, I'm your boss, or it's your child. I've lost my phone. I'm stuck somewhere. You urgently need to do something straight away. It's creating that sense of urgency for you to not think and just question what's going on. And we kind of do it to ourselves sometimes, right? We put the pressure on, get the latest feature out. Come on, push, push, push. We need to get out there, and we kind of end up shooting ourselves in the foot by causing that kind of a scenario. And it's an interesting one, being the CTO, because I have to play that role in the middle, right? I got the business on one end saying deliver, and on the other end I got my team saying we need to take the time, and I'm usually the guy who's the clutch in the middle.
And how do you handle that?
Yeah, and it's an interesting one, because there was an analogy which I wanted to get to use, which was like, if you think about it like a Formula One car, when they kind of pulled into the pit stop, right, and they tried to get that down to 4 seconds, and they change all the tires and everything, and now it goes. And there's this notion that development is like that. You've done it before, so you should be able to do it just fast and just release it. I think the bit that people necessarily don't get is the fact that I'm not doing the same thing again and again and again and again. If I was developing the same thing, then yes, I probably will be able to deploy it in 3 seconds, but it's not. It's a new piece of code. It's a different type of wheel. The nut is different. The spanner is different. There's so many things which are different, which means the time needs to be taken so that we don't make those mistakes, so that we don't leave a nut kind of loose and the car goes out. It's those kind of subtleties that, is getting the balance right. You also don't want to spend like 3 days changing a tire. So you just got to kind of get that notion right. And do you have any advice from that point of view? Like, is there a certain thing to carry, or notion that we should kind of take into account from everything that you've seen as a security point of view?
I mean, in general, on the culture wise, I would say it would be to reward the teams that don't publish in a rush and actually wait and this the launch if they find a bug, and so another thing is not blame the developers for the bugs, instead to reward them because they actually found it. That's one thing that is very helpful.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Awesome. And I guess there's a version where the industry keeps buying better tools while making the same human mistakes, right? So how do we break that cycle? What's the process here? Is it don't get the tools, or get better tools but change the process? I mean, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, in that sense, why do organizations keep doing the same mistakes? No, and there is this version where you can buy another tool, but before buying another tool, another security tool, you need first to understand the real causes of the mistakes that are happening. No, that's all the part where there is unclear ownership, poor collaboration, too short-term incentives, and risks that usually get addressed very late. This also kind of like, a consequences of the innovative posture of our industry. People tend to forget that what we are trying to do in this industry is try to achieve new things, new stuff that will serve probably the next digital area. And so also here, the innovation creates this need to go slowly and to reflect about the things that we are doing and which kind of mistake we can do. And so also with all the tools that we're getting nowadays, the goal should be to use the right tool and not just the newest one, the most expensive one. And in that sense, for example, the security judgment, the help of security can be also to guide teams to understand which are actually their needs, what they actually need, what they need to put in security, and the industry should focus a bit less on the buying capability and more on the building capability. It's kind of like we need stronger teams with clear accountability, better feedback, and a culture also that learn from mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. Kind of tooling is the next thing which I kind of want to kind of go into, right? AI is obviously increasing the attack surface and all those kind of things, but I guess there's a value to be added here as well. So where does AI genuinely add value to the security team today? Like, how does it help us?
Yeah, I mean, in general, AI help with the covering a very big portion, increasing the coverage and reducing the time that it needs to cover a code. However,
Yeah.
the catch here is that it's probably creating too much noise still. Like whenever you use AI to scan your code, it finds, I don't know, say 300 findings, and then the time you saved into finding these findings, you look reviewing these findings. So it's a trade-off to into account. And in this case, for example, our CertiK AI auditor was able, was created with in mind, because it's used for first internally and then given to the public to find, I would say, almost 90% of incidents with the reduced noise. Now this will be improved over time. However, I think it's fairly good for now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If we can get it to that point, and I guess it doesn't matter how good it gets or kind of how well it is. There's always that element which is impossible to automate, right? And it still needs that human kind of expertise or experience, right? So, where do you think that lies? Where do you think that kind of needle falls on that front?
Well,
I mean, honestly, I think
I guess
go Stefano.
No, it's kind of like there is always the human judgment, which is super important also to understand the real gaps that are in what AI is reporting and what's actually exploitable into the system. And also then that humans can create those loops that also help AI to reason about certain stuff, and this can save you some time. But still, there is the fundamental part, which is at the moment the lateral thinking, not the creative thinking, which is coming from human, that will drive the AI to look for something specific when you are reasoning about a certain protocol or a certain things that may happen into the system. So that's kind of like still, and maybe over time AI will also get there. It's kind of like we are witnessing an incredible evolution of the system.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. We're training it. We by us giving our expertise to the situation, we're also training it, right? So in theory, you should kind of start learning the kind of things that we look at. But my heart always says there's an element of thinking that a human does, which is very different to any logic that sometimes gets applied. Sometimes we can be really illogical in a funny way, and I think that's what it means to be human to a certain extent, I guess.
That is.
No, absolutely. No, that's the lateral thinking. No, I was mentioning before, which is a property of the human being. Because the analytical thinking maybe can be replicated. We will see if the AI will get there. Not also being able to replicate the lateral thinking.
Yeah. And look, I guess just on that note, just to kind of wrap up this section of it, is with AI's ability to do everything that it's doing, what is the thing that people overestimate about its ability to replace the kind of security experts of it? I mean, that's kind of what we're discussing right now. So is it just that human? Hello? I think we're back. I'm not too sure why everything got muted.
I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys are back? Okay.
We're back.
Not sure what happened there, guys. Did you hear the question, or was I just talking to myself?
No. No, it stopped right away when you started the question.
Okay. I'll say the question then. Sorry about that. I'm not quite sure what happened. I guess that was the thing, really, is the bit that everybody overestimates about kind of what AI can do and how easily it can kind of replace the security expertise, is that human aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, with that AI is able to create code. It's also able to review some of the code. But again, when it creates the code, are we sure that it does exactly what we told him to? And when it also secured the code, that we need to review always. Still, we are not at the phase where this is exhaustive, So you still need a double check, and you need to remove false positives, and that's what AI is not really good at. It's that maybe what happens most of the time is it hallucinates over small wrinkles and says there is a problem. Maybe it's intended better. And so that is why, for example, for codes that are mostly developed in with AI, it's important to use an approach. Example, I would say the gray box, because that's what I know, and to view and verify and guarantee that the code is doing exactly that behavior in that specific condition, so that you don't have surprises.
Luigi, just since you mentioned it, because I've had the question asked me a few times, and I'm going to ask you now. What is gray box testing, and how is it different to black box or white box? Like, what's the gray?
The gray is actually a combination of both, and that's the point. Okay, you don't, because black box you don't need at all to read the code. You just test say the entry points using the the inputs that you have that and then try to use this input to see what happens, analyzing the outputs. The white box is that the functioning of the code and try to execute some specific flows, while the gray box is a combination because it combines executing outside. So basically, you create an experiment based on a flow that based on the documentation and on the code, and then you test the input and verify the outputs as the blocks. So it's a mix.
Yeah, which I think is the right balance to get, given kind of where we're at in the current development kind of cycle and situation that we're in, right? It's just kind of getting that balance.
Yeah, I mean that's also the thing, because with AI, the most of the code that most of the time the AI writes thousands and thousands of lines of code.
Yes.
And most times developers don't even check them.
Yeah, no. Again, you kind of forgo the speed that you get if you have to check absolutely everything. So that gray box testing kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would like also to add, that apart from the kind of the gray approach, I think that the most important part is that we are actually building a realistic test bed of the system that we have under analysis, and this give us a way to simulate what would be the production workflow of those systems, and also provide real evidence of what a certain action does on the system. And so this becomes a kind of like stronger approach, in the sense that you can verify what's happening based on the data, and then you can take judgment thanks to the data that you're using, and also on the stimulation that you have done on the system. So yeah, that's where I think the system level security become interesting, because you can actually replicate what would happen in production by doing certain specific actions.
Yeah, no, that kind of makes complete sense. And I think there's an angle here which is interesting, which is kind of the institutional approach to this, and kind of how that changes the landscape, and kind of that what it's bringing, because it kind of stops security being the developer's problem and becomes more of like a business requirement. How secure is the situation? It's interesting to kind of have that view, especially being in the kind of a crypto native project that we are. What are institutions evaluating today that crypto native projects often overlook?
Yeah, that's a good question. Crypto native system normally focus on code, business logic, and making sure it works, and that's good.
Yeah.
However, what they are missing, and what the institution are actually focusing on, is, will it stay up? This is the main question. Like, is available, and is the resilience enough system that has to do such critical operations? So basically, I would say that they focus mostly is the resiliency and availability, and also make sure to create some dependency mapping. So what does it mean? That all the dependencies that one system has are mapped with potential consequences in case of failure, and also associated, let's say, reaction plan. So in case for example, the wallet gets hacked, then you know exactly what to do to limit the consequences.
I think that's the key one there, really, isn't it? We're in this space. We're very used to just kind of creating that app, or just that app that sits on top, or that wallet, or that SDK. But because it's generally a lot of different teams doing a lot of different developments, we as a kind of a crypto project, we don't necessarily look at the full picture, and that's something we should maybe start looking into, and keep that together. And I guess being a blockchain, or being in this space, is security now a differentiator in infrastructure providers? Is it that fundamental now that we need to kind of be aware of it?
I mean, I think that this is a rhetoric question. Because of course it is. And I think that with the current space we are now, and allows you to create whatever in mind, it's very difficult how to feature a competitor. The only way you do is to so create something that is trustable, that it's better in terms of security compared to a competitor.
I mean, knowing how we work together, you kind of know where my stance is on this one, right? I kind of kicked this off with our head of security last year, and my thing was to keep this going in the background so that we can turn around and say we are, our infrastructure is secure, because security is going to be paramount. And I don't want to say I was right, but I'm glad that we did what we did. I'm glad we pushed our tokens to the protocol level. I'm glad we've had our protocol looked at. I'm glad we have our identity at the protocol level, and we've got this kind of security mindset there from the beginning, because I think it is important, because that's where things run. All these applications that are built by AI, all the agents that are running on these infrastructures, it's the infrastructures that become important.
Yeah, and
also
go, Stefano.
Yeah, no, I just want to mention that in the end, if our aim now is to build the next digital infrastructure, we cannot make it not with availability problems. This infrastructure must be also dependable. We should be able to rely on it. We cannot. We know what will happen, for example, when the internet goes down from 1 hour, how many losses there are out there.
Absolutely.
Well, that's kind of like the same level of thinking we should apply when we build an infrastructure that should stay dependable. And that's why also with the increasing threat coming from AI, those finding bugs in these things is becoming easier. And so also the focus should be higher from projects that are building. Indeed, guys, we were very surprised, very happy about how your team handled all the, for example, the availability issue that we find during our engagements, and how you actually handled it and consider it as extremely serious problem. That's kind of like also the shift that should happen to problems that are trying to be dependable.
Agree, 100%. Right. I think we're coming towards the end. I've got this section which I'd like to do, which is like a quick rapid answer, rapid fire question to you guys, just to see where your gut's at. And it's always nice, because this is where all your expertise just comes out in an answer, and sometimes we surprise ourselves. I mean, I've had it done to me, and I've sometimes been interested with the answer that I give myself. So 5 questions, right? The most underestimated security risk in crypto right now, what do you reckon?
I would say availability and key management.
Okay. Stefano?
Yeah,
Stefano,
also
your idea?
the interoperability. Yeah, interoperability with the external dependency also, and the mapping of those dependencies.
Okay.
I would say.
Makes sense. One security habit every builder should adopt before shipping.
That's for sure. Testing of every case, and not only the happy paths, because that's something that people do. You do testing, you do only happy paths.
That's
But
very
no,
common.
you should do the edge cases.
Stefano?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like end-to-end testing is becoming fundamental in the novel infrastructure we have. So I also agree with that.
Yeah. This is a good one. Has AI made defenders or attackers stronger?
It's both, but in my opinion, attackers have higher motivation. Again, Stefano said they only need to win once, and we have to all be right on all this.
Stefano, where's your head at?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like I'm still in the phase where I think things can be equipped, but it's kind of like the one with most budgets is the one which is actually.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. That's the one that's stronger. The one who can spend the most money on it. Makes sense. One thing most founders only learn after a security incident. You must have come across a few of these.
I mean, I would go with the generic one. If something goes wrong, it will, and usually it happens at the possible time.
Right.
I would say also trust in the process, in the security process that you have in place, and you should build security process to, to resolve the situation before the incident happens. That's kind of like critical posture that I think people learn after incidents.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And last one prediction for the crypto security over the next 5 years. What would you predict is going to happen? Oh, that's got you thinking.
No, it's kind of like, I would say that what will happen is that we will need to start thinking about a system where most of the transaction will be done by agents, and so that we should go over thinking about to create some guardrail for the agents that are operating between them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Yeah, same.
Yeah. I like that. That's great, because that takes me to kind of my closing comment, which I was going to say, look, we're definitely going towards that vision that you just explained, right? We're going to have AI agents that are going to be kind of major economic participants, moving assets, coordinating services, making decisions, based on some autonomy that they have. What one security foundation must exist before society is comfortable in trusting them with real value? What's your opinion? Last question.
I mean, I think we've been going over this more or less in kind of all the questions, but mainly is the fact that you need to make sure that, first of all, you can identify this agent. Second of all, you can ensure and verify that the intention of the owner is actually satisfied by the agent. And it makes enough guardrail to make it trustable. And because in general, I think that an autonomous system that you cannot trust and cannot hold accountable is not a progress, it's actually a risk, and that is moving actually at machine speed. So it's very, very problematic.
Agreed.
Yeah, I mean, I also agree that the intent evaluation pre-execution should be kind of like one of the North Star that we should go for. But also, it's kind of like when we are building this system, we also need to think about the trade-off and the speeds that this machine needs when interacting. So also thinking about if a pure, because we are moving towards blockchain solution to solve these problems, but we may need an hybrid solution, which may come also for the internet routing to enforce the pre-execution layer. But yeah, we will see.
Well, yeah, look, I agree 100%. I think we're coming to the end of our session. Just to kind of sum it up, I think the AI conversation, so up to now anyway, has been more about capability. I think it security needs to kind of come into it, right? And it forces us to focus on the responsibility of it more than anything else. And I think as systems become more autonomous and more financial, kind of trust becomes important, right? It's not something that we can ignore, and it's something that we get from being able to rely on infrastructure that's secure. And that's kind of where we come in as. Guys, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Hopefully it's not the last time, and we'll carry on having many conversations. Thank you very much for being there, and thank you for everybody else for joining and listening in. Hopefully we said some things that you liked. Pleasure. Thanks very much, Luigi and Stefano.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the invitation.
Cheers. Have a great day, everyone.
Cheers.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.